Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me know you have the audio on now. Let me know that your audio, let me know that the volume is on, please. Let me know you can hear me now. Can you hear me? Give me a heads up and let me know that you can hear me now. I see somebody in Salah Diodone says, okay. Niba Kwati, volume please. And in there says, good now. But Amber Bibi says, no sound. I want to know that the volume you can hear me now, please. Mbaku Hamidu says, good now. Ofe Valentine, the volume is good, thank you. Javesfu says, the volume is okay, thanks. All right, I'm glad you can hear me now. I was already halfway gone. So, let's do this again. I'll start all over. As usual, I need in 10 minutes for you to bring in, to populate this platform with 1,000 people in 10 minutes. So let's do so. I know you have done that. We can do that. Let's do so right now. In 10 minutes, hit your share button. Invite others to join the platform, so that I can bring you this presentation proper. At least 1,000 people within 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes, let's do so, please. I see it says 1,000 gun salute to you from Moscow. I missed the name. But I was saying before, while you are busy hitting the share button and inviting others to join the platform, I was sending our appreciation, the appreciations of the interim government, to every Ambazonian group out there that petitioned CAF, the Confederation of African Football Association, to abort Cameroon's hosting of the 2019 African Cup of Nations. I can say to you today that today is a good day. Again, you heard me right. Today is a good day. Today is a great day for this revolution. We are making it inch by inch and by inch by inch. And if we can get organizations like the United Nations organization for which I am here today to take the kind of collective decisions that CAF took today, this fight would have been over and French Cameroon would have stopped its genocide in our territory. Again, I want to thank on behalf of the interim government every southern Cameroon's Ambazonian group that petitioned CAF to ask them to stop Cameroon, French Cameroon, from hosting the Cup of Nations. I recall that last September, the interim government wrote a 2-page petition to CAF explaining the reasons why the tournament cannot hold in Ambazonia. We have no issues for it holding in French Cameroon. But as far as Ambazonia was concerned, we wrote a petition in September asking CAF to stop the tournament coming to Ambazonia because we were not going to guarantee them security to host their tournament in our territory under the present circumstances. Other groups, Ambazonian groups, also wrote. I learned, for instance, that the consortium did. Scope also did. They did petitions CAF. And finally today, CAF has done the right thing. CAF has done the right thing by taking that decision away from French Cameroon. It's an exciting day. It's an exciting day for every Ambazonian. And again, we are hoping that every organization with conscience will stop French Cameroon from hosting anything or organizing anything. A country cannot be killing its people and at the same time wanting to bring the world or all of Africa into its territory where there is no security. Again, once more, on behalf of this interim government, we want to appreciate every Ambazonian group for doing what they did. This is what collaboration means. This is what collaboration is all about. Let's move forward in this spirit. Let me just say something, ladies and gentlemen. We can be 100 groups in Ambazonia fighting for this revolution, fighting for this struggle, yet without quarreling and without fighting with each other. You just stay on your lane, do what you know how to do best, and nobody will fight you, nobody will quarrel you. And when need be, we come together and agree to do certain things together. I really want Ambazonians to understand this revolution is not about politics. The moment for politics will come when we get to Boya. I wish we all can understand this at least for a moment. That this is a moment, this is not the moment for politicking. The moment for politicking will come once we set foot in Boya, and everybody, every individual has the right to create a political party. But for now, if we can all just focus in doing what we know how to do best as organizations, I can assure you we will get to Boya faster than imagined. Thank you. Thank you for every Ambazonian group out there for joining hands to put the back of French Cameroon down. Again, please, as you join, go ahead, hit your share button. The numbers are a little slow now. Please, as you join, go ahead, hit your share button. Ground Zero is waiting for you to populate this platform for me to come live into their homes. So please hit your share button. We're about 7 minutes to go until we have 1,000 people populating this platform. Go ahead, hit your share button, send it to WhatsApp groups, send it to WhatsApp groups, send it to Facebook groups, send it to every social media platform that you can. And let's populate, let's grow the audience so I can bring to you the presentation. Again, I have a number of announcements, breaking announcements that I'm going to bring to you. Very, very important announcements. Some programs that lie ahead that the interim government is undertaking. So please, but before I do that, I would like to have quite a handful of people on the platform before I bring those important announcements. Please go ahead, hit your share button. Hit your share button. Please, I'd like to know if you can watch the video. I cannot watch the video on my monitor here. Let me be sure that you are watching me, please. If you are watching me, give me a thumbs up. I cannot watch the image on my own screen here. It's kind of frozen, but I don't know why. Let me know that you can watch me and you can see me talking. All right. So please go ahead and you hit your share button and get more people on the platform. While you do so, I like to make, I have some very important policy announcements that I like to make. Number one, now listen carefully. Number one, the Restoration Council on Ground Zero in collaboration with leaders on Ground Zero, have agreed to call off Monday's Ghost Town for the month of December. Again, Ground Zero, in collaboration with the Restoration Council, has decided to temporarily call off ghost towns, Monday ghost towns, until further notice. Of course, I would say until January. It is temporary. We want to give our people the opportunity to do what they can do to have a better Christmas. We know you have suffered a lot, you have struggled enough. We think there should be a little break. However, let me quickly add that when need be, we may decide to invoke ghost towns within the month if the need comes. So the fact that we are suspending it for the month of December does not mean we cannot call it if need be. But mark it, know that we have called or suspended ghost towns by decision of Ground Zero and Restoration Council. They have decided to suspend it until January. And when the time comes, we will of course announce it again. This is a very important piece of announcement, and we hope that you can spread the news, please. Spread the news. Beginning Monday, which is December the 3rd, I believe. There will be no ghost towns, no Monday ghost towns till the end of December. And however, if need be, we will invoke it. We will invoke it if need be within the month. For now, every Ambazonian go about your business as usual. Every Monday throughout the month of December until you hear again from the interim government. I believe there should be excitement out there. I think this comes with a celebration of CAF's decision to suspend French Cameroon from hosting the next year African Cup of Nations. So let's have a double celebration, please. All right. Please hit your share button. Hit your share button and let's populate the screen. Hit your share button. I do not know why I cannot watch this from my screen. But I believe, if I'm not seeing any complaints, I believe you are able to watch it. You are able to see my image. You are able to hear me. But right here, I cannot hear myself. But again, go ahead and hit your share button. I still have other important announcements that I would like to make coming up. But let me see who is joining. Mary, Baba, I see you. It says La Republique is jealous of our unity. How sweet unity can be, right? I see also Banky Thomas watching with you. Indemisco, I see you. De Mbonte, I see you. Say hooray, hooray. Thank you, sir. I also see Dash Wide, Ambazonia. I see you. I like your comment. I see Jebes Fu. Say, we are okay, so carry on. Thank you. It's great to hear that. Ochiba Achundel. We are getting you secretary. Thank you. Great to hear that. Valentine Eta Are, God bless the interim government. Thank you. Please, the numbers are slowing. They are not running as fast as I want. I think I will give you 7 minutes before I bring you the presentation. I need 1,000 people on this platform before I come to you with my message. So please go ahead, hit your share button. Why, I welcome those of you who are joining. Tina Audrey, hello from Luxembourg, thank you. Afu, Ernest in UK, hello. Chris, watching from Boya, that is wonderful. How is the celebration there? I see Julius Stefan, Chris, Bia and Atanga are trembling. Of course, they always have to. Amber Sylvan, I see Chris in Gilefa. Hello, Chris. Good job, sir. Thank you, Chris. Exodus DX, I see you, sir. Good job from our government. Thank you. I see also Anne in there. I see Catherine Mooring. Until we reach Boya, we will never leave the journey halfway. Trust that. Gwe Eric, watching from Indobo, Bonaberi. Thank you. Mirabel, Cap Bapi, Besem Juliet. Say, I am here. Oh ho. All right. Mandela Rich Boy. Hello, Secretary. I see you, sir. Tegen Bazo. Please listen to my audio. Presidential. I missed that. Atemek, I see you, sir. Al-Afwa mentioned that for better and God, the grace is sufficient, Secretary Grace. Thank you. Thank you. Julius Ortiz, always on this platform. Please hit your share button. Hit your share button. It is a little slow. The numbers are a little slow. We are more than halfway gone, but it is slow. Please do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Do Ground Zero a favor by hitting that share button. Let others join us, please. Please. Christopher, Carlos, more strength, Secretary Chris. We are getting close. You are correct, sir. In the David, say Chris, watching from Belgium, sir. Thank you. RK Tangi, we don't hold them for their canas. Yeah, we're holding them one after the other, one by one. Okay, thank you. Franco Law, watching from Kumba, K-Town. Harry Taylor, I see you, sir. Mega Sozo, please hit your share button. Now, a very important announcement also. In January, second week of January, there's going to be a big conference, a big come together of the interim government. Meet January, second week in January, there's gonna be a big conference of this interim government. It is going to be a come together that changes the speed and the direction of this revolution. In January, the conference will be holding in Washington, D.C. The conference brings together the major stakeholders in the revolution, talking about people like, statesmen like Ambassador Fossum, Molali Tumbe, Professor Carson Ayangwe, and the rest, so many of them who are out there. Now all the country heads will also be there, all the interim government country coordinators and country heads, they will all be in DC, second week of January. And then all the local government leaders and coordinators and county coordinators, all of them, they shall all be in Washington, D.C. Now, this is not a teleconference. It's a physical conference that is taking place. Again, that is coming up second week in January. We are going to come together, discuss together, plan together, and walk out of that conference reinvigorating this revolution, taking it to another level. So please, a program will be open to all. If you want to show up in Washington, D.C. for the conference in January, I believe you'll be more than welcome at the plenary session. So that summit, that conference is coming up again, second week in January, and it shall be comprising of all local government leaders, all county leaders, all country head coordinators and leaders, and of course, statesmen like Ambassador Fosong, Mola Litombe, Governor Achu Mofo, all these people that you can imagine, Professor Anyangwe. It shall be a physical meeting. It is not a teleconference. It is going to be a big deal. We want to come out of the reinvigorated. It's going to be like a retreat, a spiritual retreat where you go and refuel yourself and come out with a better strategy. So please get warmed up for that. Hit your share button, please. Hit your share button. Hit your share button. I see Mambo Boris. See Lobe Favor. Very good. She says, Harry Taylor. I see you, sir. I also see Linson Yosen. Thank you for joining. I also see Jeme Loco. I thank you for joining. I see Abdurrahim Nana. Thank you for joining. I also see Castro Labistrano. Always here on this platform. Every time I am here, please do yourself a favor by hitting that share button. We have less than 400 people to go for me to come to you with the presentation proper. 5 minutes to go. If you can give me those numbers. Romero Take, I see you. Say greetings, sir. Thank you. Elvis Insop Ayong, I see you. He says good news. Paul Euro, hello, Secretary. Thank you for joining, sir. Ayuk Besong, thank you. Karen Inyang, I see you. Eva Toyin, I see you. Franklin Kisife, say Chris watching from Germany. Thank you for joining, please. Thank you. Please keep on hitting your share button. I get some more announcements that I want to bring to you. Keep on hitting your share button and grow the number. Let me bring you some more announcements. Let me bring you some more announcements from the interim government. Remember the announcement for the suspension of ghost towns on Mondays for the month of December. Again, remember the announcement for the suspension of ghost towns for the month of December. December only. December only. Again, however, if need be, we shall be calling ghost towns in the case of emergency. Let me bring you other announcement. And remember, we are also announcing a big conference for the interim government in January, mid-January, or you can say second week in January. The interim government shall be hosting a big come together for all the state leaders and the leaders of the interim government, from the local government area level to the cabinet level, including important personalities, stakeholders in this revolution. Again, I have other announcements to bring to you. Let me get them. Let me get them, please. All right. Again, I have mentioned this. The Restoration Council on Ground Zero met and agreed on the suspension of ghost towns, and the chairman on Ground Zero has been informed of that decision, to the effect that ghost towns on Ground Zero on Mondays are temporarily suspended until January 2019. Of course, first Monday, January 2019, Monday ghost towns resume. first Monday, January 2019, ghost towns will resume. That is a very important announcement. And I'm trying to locate the other announcement that I have for you. Please continue to hit your share button as I bring you these announcements. I will soon be bringing you the presentation proper. All right. Now, this is also a very important announcement that is coming up. There is going to be global demonstrations against the massacre of our people, especially Bali, Pinyin, and all the other places in Dub. There is going to be a global demonstration that will be coming up. The dates shall be announced. And also very important, we are holding an international press conference on Thursday. On Thursday, that is next week, coming Thursday. That is, I think that is the 5th, I guess. I think next Thursday will be the 5th or the 6th. In Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club. The National Press Club in Washington, D.C. shall be hosting an international press conference on the use of chemical weapons in Cameroon, in Ambazonia, beg your pardon, to kill our people. This is a very important press conference, and if you live within the Washington, D.C. metro area, mark this on your calendar. Thursday, the 6th or the 5th, I think so, is the date of the press conference at the National Press Club building in Washington, D.C. That is very, very important. Very, very important. So those are the announcements I thought to bring to you. Let me see where we are with the numbers. Let me see if you have done a good job for me to bring you the presentation. Please, this is slow. This is not to my liking. Let's round up this figure. I will in 3 minutes I will be coming to you with the presentation proper. In the meantime, welcome to the platform Moses Ayon. Welcome Hans Besson. Welcome Eunice Utaga. Welcome Valentine Etate, I mentioned you before. Welcome JF Mbacham. Welcome Amote Palakunia. Great to see you. Thank you all for joining. I really think at this moment I should come to you with the presentation. This presentation is very, very important. In the last presentation or broadcast that I brought to you, I kind of was rebuking the United Nations for ignoring events, the massacres, the killings going on in our territory, being perpetrated by French Cameroon. And there was lots of commotion out there on that rebuke. Today, I thought I should come back to you and explain to you why the United Nations need to listen to us, need to listen to Ambazonians. The United Nations was founded to ensure international peace and security. And if there is unrest in Ambazonia and the organization remains mute, they need to be called out for it. And because I didn't focus that presentation last week on the reason why they ought to be there, I decided to come to you today with an elaborate explanation why we have to hold the United Nations accountable for the massacres, the killings, the use of chemical weapons in Ambazonia, even when they have good presence in Yaoundé. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to come to you with that presentation. Thank you. Sorry for that delay. First, I would like as a reminder to mention the fact that the Charter of the United Nations was signed in San Francisco, in the United States of America, on the 26th of June 1945. The said charter came into force on the 24th of October same year. But more importantly, the founding motivation for the creation of the United Nations were threefold. Number one, the maintenance of international peace and security following the devastation of the Second World War, which threatened the individual and collective survival of humanity. Number two, the establishment of conditions under which justice and respect for obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained. And number three, member states of the United Nations are bound by the provisions of this United Nations Charter. Now, this is important. This interim government believes it is the United Nations' responsibility to protect Ambazonia and its citizens. Consider this. On the 5th of January 2017, a combined force of Nigerian and French Cameroon soldiers stormed Nera Hotel in Nigeria and abducted the president of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, Sisiko Julius Ayoktabi, and members of the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, who were present in the territory of Nigeria under the protection of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. Shortly after their abduction, the United Nations High Commission representative in Nigeria issued a public statement acknowledging the protected status of the abductees under the 1951 United Nations Convention on the Protection of Refugees. Rather than release the abductees, French Cameroon and Nigeria, in a blatant exercise of impunity, proceeded to abduct 38 other Southern Cameroon refugees and then 8 others after, who had fled from carnage and genocide to seek refuge in Nigeria under the protection of the United Nations, and again they were deported back to French Cameroon. As of this date, many more are reported to have suffered the same fate. Some have died. Statement. Both the governments of French Cameroon and Nigeria. They have publicly admitted to these abductions and other crimes against Southern Cameroon's refugees in the territory of Nigeria and the civilian population of Southern Cameroons in Ambazonia. The prospect of brutally executing them once in the custody of the genocidal regime from which they fled in the first place was well known to the government of Nigeria, from where they were abducted, and the United Nations under whose protection they were. Despite the fact that these acts of international criminality occurred against protected persons under international law within the mandate of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, which institution is under the United Nations institutional mandate of the United Nations General Assembly. The Secretary General of the United Nations failed to report to the United Nations General Assembly about this violation. He did not. Again, he did not, and has not requested that Nigeria and French Cameroon abate the violation by returning the abductees to the custody of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. In this circumstance, by not reporting the abduction and conspiracy to abduct Southern Cameroonian Ambazonians by Nigeria and French Cameroon, the Secretary General of the United Nations has failed to, in quote, establish the conditions under which justice and respect for obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained, end of quote. By omission, by neglect, by indifference, or in the violation of the founding principles of the United Nations by condoning impunity, international criminality, and the violating of the United Nations Charter obligations of Nigeria and French Cameroon. Paradoxically, the United Nations Organization in the strongest terms has condemned Boko Haram for the abductions committed within the territory of Nigeria, and it has mobilized resources to combat this form of criminality, while at the same time the United Nations is paying lip service to the abduction of Southern Cameroon's leaders and citizens who were under United Nations protection by the same countries that the United Nations was supporting to fight the same crime. If this isn't unjust, if this isn't bias and discrimination, tell me what exactly you think it is. Because Boko Haram constitutes a threat to the economic interests of the West. We see a concerted effort up here, up to the United Nations level, to exterminate it. But when it comes to the rights of Southern Cameroonians, who pose no threat to anybody, who just want to be a free people, the United Nations pays a blind eye. The failure by the United Nations to condemn and sanction Nigeria and French Cameroon for these crimes has only encouraged these criminal practices in the two countries, leading to the abduction, detention, and or disappearance of thousands of Ambazonians to concentration camps, detention centers, and death chambers in French Cameroon on the watch of the United Nations. The United Nations has a permanent representative in Yaoundé, but she will not as much as issue a statement, a mere statement, that the United Nations will investigate the use of chemical weapons in Bali to kill dozens of Ambazonians. For the past 2 years, French Cameroon, a state party to the Geneva Conventions of 1949, is executing a genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity in the territory of Ambazonia. The silence of the United Nations has encouraged the impunity with which the genocide is being executed. Civilians, hopeless and powerless, they are daily rounded up, exterminated, and tortured with sarin poisonous gas and other prohibited weapons of mass destruction. Initially, the United Nations Secretary General directed his personal representative for the United Nations Central African Mission to report situations like these in the southern Cameroons. Apart from intermittent visits that this emissary paid to the genocide mastermind and arch-criminal Paul Biya of French Cameroon, he neither initiated a visit to the French Cameroon slaughter fields in Ambazonia, nor investigated from the victims or the interim government of Ambazonia. He did not visit the internally displaced or the refugee camps in neighboring Nigeria, or talk to human rights organizations that were documenting the crimes of French Cameroon. Despite these significant deliberate limitations, this emissary went to New York to present a biased report or biased reports which strangely allied with the talking points of French Cameroon genocide war propaganda. These biased reports were contradicted by overwhelming majority of reports from international media, international human rights organizations, this interim government of Ambazonia, activists, and of course victims. Matthew Lee, one of the strong voices calling for United Nations intervention at the United Nations headquarters in New York, a journalist working for City Press, was gagged, then suppressed, and then banned from the United Nations premises. Finally, even the biased reporting by the Secretary General's emissary was abated after the United Nations Secretary General visited Paul Biya and was publicly presented a golden gift. This publicly presented an acceptance of a golden gift from a genocide mastermind who had taunted the resolve of the United Nations by abducting persons under United Nations protection, was committing a genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes against Ambazonians, was a public endorsement of these crimes. The reason for this conduct is not far-fetched. The United Nations Secretary General publicly accepted a gift from a genocide, crime against humanity, and war crimes mastermind. It must be anyone's guess what other private gifts accompany the public golden gift that the world witnessed on that occasion. Ambazonians are mad, and rightly so, because the United Nations Secretary General had an opportunity to call on Paul Biya to respect the United Nations Charter obligation to maintain international peace and security. He failed. The UN Secretary General failed to do so. Rather, his visit and acceptance of gifts without deeming it necessary to defend the founding principles of the United Nations through using the authority of his office to call to a halt to the genocide and the crimes, encourage the ongoing crimes and the escalation of the threat to international peace and security in the territory of Ambazonia and the entire Gulf of Guinea. The participation of Nigeria in this conflict should have been a serious cause for concern to the United Nations Secretary General that the conflict had internationalized with the possibility of escalation in the Gulf of Guinea. Again, the Secretary General of the United Nations failed to enforce compliance with the founding objectives of the United Nations in times of need. The overflow of blood of innocent Ambazonians must be attributed to this systemic failure of the United Nations arising from the conduct and activities of the Secretary General, that rather than abate, he encouraged the impunity with which the crimes are perpetrated. Fellow Ambazonians, we Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, we are victims of perennial functional neglect, inaction, and betrayal. French and British commercial deals over Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia oil deals, and natural resources, they led to the slave deal in which Southern Cameroon's, the United Nations Charter promised independence, became the Trojan horse by which France annexed the territory through the proxy of French Cameroon under the watch of the United Nations. During the ongoing genocide, the world has witnessed how French Cameroon arch-criminal Paul Biya dispatched his Secretary General at the presidency to London to sign an oil deal over the oil reserves of Ambazonia to placate and buy the allegiance of the British government. The interim government of Ambazonia is grateful to voices of freedom and defenders of civilized human values in the British House of Commons and the British House of Lords, who have spoken against the genocide and voiced strong criticism of the treachery of Her Majesty's government that betrayed the people of the British Cameroons and sold us into slavery and colonial rule. The interim government commends critical voices in the United States Congress who have taken a strong stand against genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes that the criminal masterminds in French Cameroon are committing against Ambazonia. The interim government of Ambazonia also commends strong support from within the European Union and European member states, especially Germany and the European Parliament. Like in Rwanda in 1994, the international human rights community is bringing to the fore of the human conscience another unfolding genocide in the continent of Africa. This interim government acknowledges with deep appreciation also the strong statement of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on the prevention of the crime of genocide, calling for investigations in situations like this in the Southern Cameroons. However, Despite these strong statements calling for investigations and a halt to the unfolding genocide and international crimes, the United Nations Secretary General has failed to submit the situation to the United Nations General Assembly for strong resolutions permitting urgent intervention, or the United Nations Security Council for an urgent United Nations Chapter 7 intervention. The United Nations Secretary General has failed to use his good offices to intervene to halt the ongoing genocide in Ambazonia, the southern Cameroons. He again has failed to defend the founding objectives of the United Nations. Considering all of this interim government of Ambazonia is rightly outraged by the persistence of the United Nations betrayer of Ambazonia for the past 57 years, and we hold the United Nations responsible for the ongoing genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes in the territory of Ambazonia. This interim government and the annexed and colonized people of Ambazonia declared their freedom and total independence on October 1st, 2017. And there is no turning back on that declaration. The blood of innocent Ambazonians slaughtered in their own homes has only strengthened the resolve of the living to keep on fighting until the last person standing to expel the genocidal enemy French Cameroon from our national territory. If the United Nations cannot live to the founding objective of its charter, then it should leave Ambazonia alone to fight for its own survival. If Ambazonia does not exist, French Cameroon will not exist. It's a promise. And God being on our side, we shall prevail. Thanks for watching and good night.